Hello and welcome back to the podcast, We Are Selling. Each week, we tackle something very special that affects the real estate movement and the real estate industry. And over the last 6 months, we've had many requests for what are better listing streams? What can we do out there that gives us an upstream opportunity, following our theme from Mark Kentwell, and also providing value and knowledge to our consumers and the real estate community. And today I've got a great story and one that I think affects us all at one time or another. Please welcome to our program, Rachel Lane. Rachel, welcome to the program.
Hi, Lee. Thanks for having me.
Now, I just mentioned what you do affects all of us at one time or another. And everyone's thinking, Lee, what does she do? What do you do?
So I specialise in downsizing and aged care. So I've been doing that for 20 years this year. I started as a financial advisor and I was boring enough to do my master's in financial planning on the Aged Care Act 1997.
Wow. And what a difference then to now. Aged care, the over 55 market is the biggest sector of the Australian real estate industry. Rachel, take us through the dramatic change that the industry has gone through in your sector.
Yeah, look, there's been so many changes. And I kind of think of my sector as being anything beyond retirement. So everyone plans for retirement and possibly they plan for the first 2 or 3 years. But after that, they kind of wing it. So I guess that's where I come in and help, with big decisions. And probably the biggest decision, as you would appreciate, is, where am I going to live? Because it has so many implications in terms of health, happiness, social connection. It really is a pivotal decision in people's lives at any point in their life, but particularly in that retirement phase.
And Rachel, many people make this decision way too late. They could have done the planning earlier. And I think there's some embarrassment of, I don't want to believe I'm getting old. And for all the consumers that we represent out there, and I know myself, I help so many people into lifestyle villages, and they all said, I wish I did it 10, 15 years ago. What's your view on that?
Spot on. That's the most common downsizing regret is I just wish I did it sooner. And I think one of the elements of, or really the reason people struggle with downsizing is that there's a smorgasbord of options. So when you're going from the 3-bedroom home to the 4-bedroom home, the options that you've got are actually narrowing. But when you're downsizing, when you're going from that 4-bedroom home to, say, a 2-bedroom home, that 2-bedroom home could take a variety of different living arrangements. So it could be a granny flat with your kids. It could be an apartment that you rent or that you buy. It could be a home in a land lease community. It could be an apartment in a retirement village. It could be an apartment in a build-to-rent development. It could be collaborative housing with friends or with a developer-made community. There are literally so many options that people have got when it comes to that downsizing decision.
And if people were doing this correctly, at what age would they start bringing it on their radar that, okay, we're all good now, we want to do some travel, but at what age should they start bringing this on their radar?
Well, I think people do leave it too late, but I think there's sort of a few motivations. So there's the lifestyle, if you like, movers, and they're the ones who want a home that's safe, that's secure, that they can lock and leave for 6 months while they go travelling, that's low maintenance. So there's sort of that cohort. There's the cohort that are motivated by the fact that they simply can't maintain their current home. So they can't do it themselves, and it's becoming really expensive or possibly unaffordable to get other people to do it for them. And then you've got those who need to move because they need to access care or support in order to remain living as independently as possible.
Very good. Well, that really opens it up there, and it is a real estate decision. It's not just a I'm getting old decision. And I think for our agents listening, you've really got to get amongst this and understand what needs to happen. I know last year we had Robin's mum's place go on the market, and the entire industry knows about that. But we hit a whole heap of unexpected situations where, okay, we're selling, but you got to buy into a lifestyle village. How does that work? What's the taxation? What's the situation there? And I know it's a general question for today's interview, but what's some of the go-wrongs that people fall into?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest confusion when it comes to land lease communities, and sometimes they're called manufactured home parks, sometimes they're called over 50s lifestyle villages, gated resorts. So part of the confusion comes from the fact that there are so many terms for those communities. The other thing that people get confused by is that they instantly link them to being retirement villages. And I always say, well, you've really got two types of retirement community. You've got retirement villages and land lease communities, but that's a bit like saying you've got fruit and one's an apple and one's an orange. They're very, very different things. So in a land lease community, you buy your home and then you lease the land on which it sits. And these homes are freestanding homes. Sometimes they can be quite big homes. It's not uncommon for people to what I call supersize their downsize into a land lease community. So they might actually go into a bigger home than their current home, but it's a more low maintenance home than their current home. And because of that unique contract structure, i.e., you own the home but you lease the land on which it sits, there can be some social security benefits to that, which is that if you get the pension, you can get rent assistance for that rent that you're paying for the land on which your home sits. Whereas in a retirement village, typically you'll have a leasehold or a license arrangement, but it's over the whole property, in which case you can only claim rent assistance if the amount you pay for your home in the retirement village is under $242,000. So they're quite different in terms of their treatment. Other benefits that you get are things like you don't pay stamp duty, and that applies to both retirement villages and land lease communities. Typically, you don't pay stamp duty. The ongoing fees in a retirement village are on a cost recovery basis, and in a land lease community, they're set at a market price. And then, of course, the thing that most people attribute to retirement communities is exit fees. And one of the big differences is that land lease communities typically don't have exit fees, whereas retirement villages do. And that's largely because the land lease communities can and do make a profit from those weekly rents, whereas the retirement villages must charge those weekly rents on a cost recovery basis. So they make their profits through the exit fee.
Absolutely amazing. And I remember I visited one of these in Port Macquarie. I was doing a site story, and this place was stunning. It had beautiful 3-bedroom, single-story homes. It had a pool. It had a function area. It had a motorhome parking space where people could, still go caravanning, but come back and go into their beautiful villa. I'd never seen anything like it, and I really saw the future of real estate there, of how people could downsize.
Yeah, absolutely. It is one of those things, I think, for a lot of people when they think about retirement communities, they have an idea in their mind, a picture in their mind of what these communities are like. And when they go out and visit them, they're really pleasantly surprised by what's on offer, because what they're envisaging is what they perhaps saw their parents move into. Whereas retirement communities today, a bit like everything else the baby boomers have ever touched, have been completely revolutionised.
This is so true. So for all our listeners thinking, is that a trailer park where all the people sit on their balcony having a ciggy? No, it's not.
No.
It's like boarding houses have been rebranded into manor homes, which has been a fantastic housing solution for people. And the reason I want you to come on today, Rachel, and I saw your segment on Channel 7, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And just to bring it to my agent's attention that this is a massive sector. You need to know about it. You can't be left behind. And if you're the agent giving some advice, and when I say advice, that there's options out there and there's even costing structures that they can find out early, you are a property advisor in advising there's options. Now, you are not a financial advisor. And very exciting news coming up, Rachel. You and I are going to do a TOD, Training on Demand, that actually explains how you can communicate this through to the future sellers who are going to be transitioning into their lifestyle village. But during COVID, we all got bored, but you got adventurous. You wrote some incredible software.
That's right. Well, I'm in Melbourne, Lee, so our lockdowns were pretty long and pretty hard. But we did. We look, knowing that regret exists, that I wish I made the move sooner, and knowing that part of that regret stems from the fact that people are financially confused. And I thought we can solve that. We can help people to understand what they're going to pay to live in a retirement community. I call it ingoing, ongoing, and outgoing, because the fees are different and you can't compare downsizing into a retirement village for $600,000 to downsizing into an apartment for $600,000, because you're ignoring 2/3 of the transaction. You're ignoring what you're going to pay while you live there, and you're ignoring how much you're going to get back and how soon when you leave. So we created this software called Village Guru that's really about crunching the numbers on people's options, and it can compare up to 3 different options side by side. So some people use it to compare different payment options in a retirement village. Some people use it to compare staying at home with downsizing into an apartment with downsizing into a land lease community. Some people use it to compare 2 or 3 different retirement communities side by side. But that's really the purpose of it, is to say, okay, this is what you want to, this is the transaction that you potentially want to get involved in. Here's what you need to know. And it doesn't just calculate what you're going to pay to the retirement community. It also provides an estimate of their age pension and rent assistance entitlements. So understanding those rules around when does rent assistance apply, how does it get calculated, and the same for the age pension. And if they're getting a home care package, it can also provide an estimate of their home care package fees and funding. And that can be a really important element, particularly for people who are downsizing into a retirement community and taking their home care package with them.
Now, Rachel, you also wrote a book. What was the title of the book for our listeners that want to grab hold of this?
The latest book's called Downsizing Made Simple. It's the 2nd edition that I've written with Noel Whittaker, who probably needs no introduction. He's a finance guru. But we wrote the 2nd edition just literally days before Christmas last year. So that's out now. And we've actually just hit reprint because we've sold out. So it's been incredibly popular.
Fantastic. Well, I don't want to get my industry too excited too early. We've been speaking, Rachel, about building the course that gives the agents the skills, the conversations, and the support to go out to the community and say, look, I've actually done some study on this. I can assist you. There is a software package that runs the numbers for you, which would be open me to doing an assessment on those numbers for you. Now, for everyone freaking out, this does not make you a financial advisor. Rachel, explain how the software is a tool for the agents to start a conversation.
Yeah, well, that's right. What we've found is that most downsizers won't sell until they know what they're going to buy. And one of the great things about downsizing, particularly into retirement communities, is that you can find that the deposit is not particularly onerous. So it's normally, $1,000, $2,000 that they need to put down. It's not binding in that if they have a change of circumstances, they can get that deposit back. And a lot of the retirement communities will marry the settlement dates so that there's no kind of gap, if you like, in their accommodation. So they can literally just move straight from their home into their new home in the retirement community.
So, Rachel, this is just exceptional to give a planning process and a structure to it. Because one thing I noticed about the senior Australians and even the young senior Australians, they didn't want to bother anyone. They didn't know what to Google or do, so they just left it 10 years too long. Yet I know if I was out there now and said, look, I've studied this, I've read the book, let me give you some tips, and these are your options, that person would then just say, thank you. We do need to get our property on the market, and you've helped us so far so well. We're going to go with you. And to me, that was one of my excitements of bringing in an exceptional listing stream to our clients who want to learn to be a better agent. And how do you be a better agent? Bring this on your learning menu, because it's happening. It's not going to stop. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And people are far more aware now than they ever were. When I saw your segment on Channel 7, it was like, wow. And then another mutual friend put us together. And you think, this is exciting. So, Rachel, what advice would you have for the agents other than reading the book and doing the course to bring this on their radar as a future listing stream?
Yeah, that I couldn't agree with you more, Lee. Really, people who are going through this downsizing journey, they do want that source of truth. They do want someone that they can talk to about this and that can help them to navigate. You know, the big questions they have are, what is my home worth? It's amazing to me the number of people that, and in the book, we talk to real life, downsizers and get their stories. And it was just incredible to me in speaking to those people, how many of them didn't have a clue what their home was worth.
Yeah, or they're out of date and they think they do, but they're way out.
Yeah, or they saw what their neighbour's house sold for a year ago and they thought that they would get the same price because they had the same number of bedrooms, So that really is the starting point in this journey of downsizing for most downsizers, is to work out, what is my home worth? And then the next thing they want to know is, what can I afford to buy, and what does that look like for me? So what am I going to pay up front? What does it mean for my pension? How much am I going to get back when I sell it in the future? All of those sorts of things. And that's where the Village Guru report, it's quite a thorough report. It's about 15 pages, largely because I'm not a believer of just popping numbers on a page and saying, well, you just have to believe us because we're called Village Guru. We put numbers on the page and then we back up those numbers with, this is how we calculated that, so that if there is, a daughter who's a school teacher or a son who's an engineer or an accountant, or, someone who's just really good at spreadsheets and they want to check that those numbers are right, they can do that because we want them to be empowered with that information. Ultimately, people downsize when they feel empowered to make that choice. And that's really what the Village Guru software is all about. It's about empowering that decision, empowering that transaction with great information.
Absolutely amazing. Well, Rachel, the course we're going to do will teach them the software, the words, and the sequence. But for those that want to get started, read your book. What's your website? How do they get hold of you?
Yeah, they can jump on downsizingmadesimple.com.au. We've got lots of people who actually use that website. We've got checklists on there. So even people who haven't read or bought the book use our calculators. There's articles on there from Noel and myself. There's all sorts of great resources to help people to downsize. So yeah, downsizingmadesimple.com.au. Of course, we'd love it if you buy the book, but you'll find that there's lots of other great resources on there as well, and we don't lock them up based on whether or not you have bought the book.
Rachel Lane, great information and a great service. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.